Hello, everyone. Nick Skillicorn here, and welcome to a very, very special live episode of the Idea to Value podcast. I'm trying out some new things this year. I wanted to see how I can get better quality video out more frequently. So this is why I'm trying live video more exclusively this year. You should be able to see me live on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and on YouTube simultaneously, I hope, if all the technology goes well. And then, of course, we're going to be putting this up on the podcast website and on ideatovalue.com as well. So what would really help me to understand how you're seeing this is I should be able to see your chat comments or your comments on whatever platform that you're watching this video. So if you're watching this, could you just say, "Hi, Nick," or "Looking good," or just let me know where you're looking in from. And then as the video progresses, I should even be able to see questions as they come in and answer them live as well. So that's something I'm very excited to try out today. But what you're probably here to listen to me talk about today is a very exciting new report that came out in October 2020 from the World Economic Forum. And this was the annual Future of Jobs report. This is a report that the World Economic Forum puts out every now and again, looking at how jobs around the world are going to change due to the changing in demand of certain skills and certain industries. And so I've just got my first my first comment. It says, "Do you know the rules of the game?" Unfortunately, Adrian, this isn't the time for that. But the World Economic Forum essentially shows what skills are going to be more in demand in the future, and therefore how companies can prepare for it. If you don't know about the World Economic Forum, they're a exclusive organization that is most famous for their meetings in Davos with some of the world's most sort of exclusive thinkers on what it takes to create new economic policy. And this report that they came out with in October 2020, I want to show you because it really has some very exciting things that are going to be very valuable for any company thinking about how creativity and innovation fit into their company strategy. So I'm going to bring it up right now. I should be able to read it at the same time if the technology all goes well. So here we go. The World Economic Forum Future of Jobs Report 2020. By the way, I've got a link on my website already for a previous blog post I did on this, outlining the main findings. So what's very important to understand about this Future of Jobs report is what it's based on. And the World Economic Forum did surveys with 290 of the world's largest companies. And that covers something like several million employees around the world. So this is from the perspective of global leaders and HR organizations of the world's biggest companies. And they obviously spend a lot of time thinking about what it's going to take to make this company successful, not only this year and next year, but also strategically in a couple of years' time. And the most important page I want to highlight to you is on page 36. So if we bring this down here, this is the result of the analysis into which skills are going to be more or less important over the next couple of years. And here in figure 27B, we can list out the top 15 skills for 2025. So what are going to be the skills that companies need to improve and need to really focus on so that in 4 years' time now and into the future, they're going to be successful. And I'll just quickly read out the top 15 skills. So number 1, analytical thinking and innovation, right there at number 1. Number 2, active learning and learning strategies. Number 3, complex problem solving. Number 4, critical thinking and analysis. Number 5, creativity, originality, and initiative, right there in the title. Number 6, leadership and social influence. Number 7, technology use, monitoring and control. Number 8, technology design and programming. Number 9, resilience, stress tolerance, and flexibility. Number 10, reasoning, problem solving, and ideation. Number 11, emotional intelligence. Number 12, troubleshooting and user experience. Number 13, service orientation. Number 14, systems analysis and evaluation. And number 15, persuasion and negotiation. Now, if you actually look at what sort of themes are coming out there, there's some very, very clear biases towards getting more skills in creativity and innovation. So out of these top 15, analytical thinking and innovation, complex problem solving, critical thinking and analysis, creativity, originality, and initiative, those are 4 out of the top 5 skills directly related to creativity and innovation skills. And then within the rest of them, reasoning, problem solving, and ideation, obviously, troubleshooting and user experience, also very much related to fixing problems, and leadership and social influence as well. So how can we get these innovative new ideas more embedded in the organization? So the question is, why are these skills so heavily focused on creativity and innovation? And why are these the ones that are being so highlighted as being in demand for the future? And I think it comes down to a increased understanding from leadership and from HR as to what's going to make the difference in organizations going forward. It's not about keeping the status quo and keeping operations as efficient and as effective as possible. The world of the future, and even the world of today going into the future, is becoming more and more fast-paced, where large established companies can no longer just rely on the scale that they've developed over decades or centuries to protect them. The expectations of the industry and of consumers is also changing. They're expecting better solutions that more deliver value to them in the way that they want it. So not just better features or lower prices, but things that are more tailored to their needs. And then finally, with the increase in globalization, you can't just focus on which competitors you have in your immediate market. You need to be thinking about not only what your direct competitors from overseas might be doing coming into your industry, now that supply chains are so efficient that businesses can effectively do work anywhere. And in the world of internet and technology companies, they literally can do work for consumers around the world immediately anywhere. So how can you create new offerings and solve problems more quickly so that you continue to add value to your customers? Innovation and creativity are therefore going to be really the foundation and the cornerstone of what companies are going to need in the future. There's another set of skills that I wanted to highlight as well, which are the relative importance of different skill groups. This is figure 27A, so just above the one in the report that I just showed you. But again, it really shows the desire for increasing ability to do innovation and creativity. So there's sets of skills that companies report as being decreasing in importance, stable, so they're likely to be the same in a couple of years, and increasing in importance. And starting from the top, the ones that are most important, going down to the ones that are least important. The number 1 is critical thinking and analysis. Number 2, problem solving. So again, both of those very, very related to creativity and innovation. Number 3, self-management. To a lesser degree, giving people autonomy to approach their work in their own way, especially important since 2020 through the COVID crisis, having people do their most effective work in the way that works for them. Working with people, so interpersonal relationships, management and communication activities. This doesn't just mean managing other people. This means making teams work effectively together. Technology use and development is actually lower down the list. So this is not, it's decreasing in importance compared to some of the other skills. Core literacies, that's the basic sort of skills you need to do business, Word, Excel, understanding how to use online systems, etc. And then physical abilities, the very, very least important skill. And that's because physical abilities, again, is one of the skills which can be automated far easier than the skills that require the human mind. If you can create a machine to do work instead of a human being, you no longer need the physical ability of that person. You might need their skills in operation more than just the manual labor, but more and more anything that involves moving objects from A to B or mechanically going through processes, those are the skills that are going to be most at risk of disruption and of decreasing importance to people. So I highly recommend, if you're interested in the future of work, go and get a copy of this report. I've got the link to the report on the website. I'll get the link down in the description to this video after it's gone live as well. And that's the majority of the report that I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to now give a bit more view on how companies can approach actually improving their creativity and innovation scores. But before I do that, for anyone who's just joined in, as I said, I'm going out live on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Could you just let me know if you can hear me okay? Just type a little comment down below saying, "Hi, Nick, everything's looking good, everything's sounding fine," or just, "Hi, Nick," and your view on what you found interesting so far, or what you'd like to find out more about. That'll let me know that everything from the technology side is going okay. And even if you'd like to leave me a comment or share the video to show that you're enjoying this type of content, and I should do more of it in the future, that'll show me sort of where to focus my next set of video efforts. But why are creativity and innovation skills so important? How can companies develop them? Well, I think the how they can develop them is probably much more important than why they're important. So companies quite often say that creativity and innovation is important to their organization, just like this job report here showed. The results there are based on surveys. It's what people say is important to them, but their actions can sometimes be quite different. Very often, I've worked with companies who will outwardly say, "Oh, we welcome new ideas," or "We encourage all of our team members to be innovative, share their suggestions for new ways of doing things, and be creative." But they don't back it up with actions, and they don't back it up with support resources, and they don't actually communicate that value intrinsically from the top level down. So if companies want to take creativity and innovation seriously, then leadership needs to change the way that they're behaving as well. And there's a couple of ways that they can do that. First of all, the people at the top of the organization need to walk the walk instead of just talking the talk. They might just previously say, yes, we want our people to be innovative and creative. But what's more important is to say, how can they contribute and how can they add value with their new ideas? So what does a successful innovation theme look like? What does a good idea mean in the context of this organization? This is what an innovation strategy should really outline. What sort of criteria are defined as being a good innovation? Because quite often, if a company says, just send your ideas, then people don't really know how to start. It's the sort of blank page syndrome, where quite often the hardest part of starting any creative project is looking down at a blank page and thinking, I could do anything, and that's not giving me any sort of seed to start from. If instead leadership says, okay, as an example, we are looking for suggestions on how to expand our product line, or enter these strategic new markets, or improve the effectiveness of our processes, or get in front of new customer groups. These really small communications changes can exponentially increase the ability of the people in the organization to actually contribute valuable ideas. You can imagine the difference between someone saying, give us your ideas, and that's it. You might end up with ideas like, can we have more diet sodas in the vending machines? And yes, that might be an idea, but it's not going to be an idea that necessarily adds value to the customers of the company and the company itself. Whereas if a challenge is set out saying, give us your ideas related to reducing the amount of time our supply chain takes to deliver to customers, then all of a sudden, people from across the organization can add really focused new suggestions and creative ideas. Because if you understand the criteria within which you're allowed to play, the edges of the box, then you can really focus your creative efforts on things that are going to really solve the challenge. You need to understand what the challenge is before you can solve it. So that's one thing that companies can do. They can sort of make it a lot clearer what innovation and creativity means in the context of their organization. But then they actually also need to do two other things. The second thing is that they need to provide the resources for people to actually spend time being creative and innovative. And this doesn't just mean money and budgets, although that is very important. Money and budgets sometimes get forgotten. If people think that innovation and creativity is just the submission of ideas, then if there's no resources behind them for people to actually develop those ideas, refine them, test them, develop MVPs, take them to potential customers, or even a process behind them to manage those understanding what your innovation portfolio and your idea portfolio looks like and being able to compare one idea to another, then those ideas aren't going to result in anything. And people are going to quickly get disillusioned by being creative and innovative in that organization. Ideas are called priceless because they don't have any value until you are able to put a price on them. So you need to back up your organization with the resources required to actually do creativity and innovation. And then there's one final tip that I'll give to companies that are looking to develop the skills of creativity and innovation in their organizations. And that's to look very, very critically and openly and honestly at how new ideas are actually treated within that company. There's a lot of unconscious biases that prevent new ideas from actually taking hold, and sometimes even more that prevent new ideas being welcomed at all. So one example that I frequently come across is the HR processes. Quite often, large organizations have HR processes, and especially year-end performance review processes, that look back on what work was done, look at what was done well, but very often have a focus on whether or not anything was done badly. And if there's this focus on, you may have done these things well, but you did this one thing and it was negative, then this sets the standard that you want to avoid negative repercussions to your work. You want to avoid making mistakes. You want to avoid failure. And that sets the tone of the organization that don't try new things if there's a risk that they'll fail. And if anyone has ever done anything creative or innovative, the beginning of it will not look like a success. Sometimes it takes months or even years of going through iterations and refining these ideas, products, and services before they're actually ready for the market. And if every time there's a need to change and refine a product because it didn't do as it was expected, if every time that is counted as a failure, then the organization is quickly going to run out of people who are willing to fail when judged by their peers. If instead you reframe these steps along the way away from small failures to experimental results, then all of a sudden, instead of failing at each experiment, you're validating and making progress in each experiment. So that's one way of looking at how you can change your review cycles and your performance reviews. A very effective way of seeing a new way of communicating that creativity is actually allowed and enabled. And at the end of the year, you can say, this is what you did well. This is what you were involved with to actually make progress and validate and sort of be innovative. And sometimes there are requirements for HR to obviously check things that really have gone negative, like if someone is behaving in a very unprofessional way, sort of not treating colleagues with respect, those sorts of things. But those should be separated out from trying new things and being innovative. And then finally, also related to how creativity and innovation are perceived, an organization, and especially from the leadership and decision maker level, should step back and look at their own unconscious biases in the organization. I'm going to be talking about biases in the coming weeks, but these are the unconscious processes that define how we react to the world and how we quickly make decisions without even being aware of them. One of my favorite examples of this when it comes to the context of improving creativity and innovation is some work done by Dr. Jennifer Mueller, who looked at the reaction of decision makers when assessing a selection of ideas. Some of these ideas were highly original and could add a lot of value. Some of these ideas were in the experiment deliberately made a lot more boring, less risky, and very much closer to what had previously been done by the organization, but therefore not adding as much value. And very consistently, decision makers thought that what they were assessing ideas on was which ones were creative. They would outwardly say this. They said, we're looking for creative ideas. I think I've selected some really good ones here. But what they ended up selecting consistently were the ones which were the least risky and the least creative and the least original. And this is because there are unconscious biases when you put in a decision maker position that automatically your reaction to creativity is more related to the feeling of disgust than it is to delight. People are not aware that they don't really enjoy selecting creative ideas. And this is just one example of a unconscious bias. There are lots of others like survivorship bias, confirmation bias, the Semmelweis complex, all of these things that I'll be talking about in the coming weeks that can really hurt an organization's ability to support creativity and innovation. So if you are in a leadership position, and even if you are just in a company and you're looking to improve your own creativity and your own innovativeness, I suggest you do some research on the types of biases that are out there. Some of them you can find on idea2value.com, and take stock about, even if you don't feel that these are affecting you, understand that more than likely these are universal things that almost all humans suffer from. So you are probably suffering from these biases as well, even if you don't notice it yourself. And then asking yourself, how can I change the way that I assess new information that comes to me so that I'm more likely to give new creative ideas the time and the potential compared to immediately trying to spot flaws with them, comparing them to what's come previously, and therefore being more likely to reject them. So I hope this live broadcast has been of interest to you. I hope the audio quality when I listen back to it is good as well. It'll go up on the podcast anyway, and it'll also go up on idea2value.com. If you are interested in finding out more about innovation and creativity, then please look at all of the other articles on idea2value.com. And if you've come to the video thus far, it probably means that you're interested in creativity and innovation. If that's the case, I'd really appreciate it if you could follow me on especially LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And if you found the if you found the content of this video interesting, then please share it as well. Drop a comment telling me what exactly you did like, because I can look at all of these afterwards. And also share it with your colleagues who might be interested in innovation and creativity tips as well. Until then, thank you very much for your time today. I look forward to speaking again with you soon, and thank you.